The evening was heavy with rain, the kind that blurred city lights into a watercolor of gold and gray. Brianna Johnson, a 17-year-old high school student, clutched her backpack against her chest as she hurried down Main Street. She had just left her part-time job at a small diner, and the scent of grilled cheese still clung to her uniform. She turned onto an alley she often used as a shortcut. That was when she saw him, a man, sitting against a dumpster, drenched from head to toe. His clothes were ragged, his hair unkempt, and his eyes carried the hollow look of someone who had been forgotten by the world. Brianna slowed. Most people walked past men like him without a glance, but Brianna wasn't most people. Her mother had always told her, "We might not have money, baby, but we always have kindness." Brianna slipped her hand into her bag and pulled out a sandwich she had wrapped after work. It was supposed to be her dinner, but looking at the man shivering in the cold, she knew he needed it more. "Sir," she said softly, kneeling so she wouldn't tower over him. "Are you hungry?" The man looked up, startled. For a moment, his sharp blue eyes seemed out of place on such a battered face. He blinked, then nodded. Without hesitation, Brianna placed the sandwich in his trembling hands. "It's not much, but it's warm." The man's lips quivered, and for a heartbeat it seemed he might cry. Instead, he whispered, "Thank you. You have no idea how much this means." Brianna smiled, gave him a gentle nod, and hurried off into the rain. What she didn't know was that this man was not who he seemed. His name was Edward Langston, a reclusive millionaire. Owner of one of the largest real estate empires in the city, Edward had grown disillusioned with his wealth and the endless line of people who wanted favors, deals, or money. He had decided on a whim to disguise himself as a homeless man and see if anyone in the city would show kindness without expecting anything in return. For days, people had passed him as though he were invisible. Some muttered insults. A few tossed coins like they were scraps. But Brianna, a teenage girl in a cheap diner uniform, was the first to kneel, to look him in the eye, and to share her only meal. As he chewed the sandwich that night, Edward made a vow. He would not forget her. The next morning, Brianna was at home, sitting at the small kitchen table with her mother, when the knock came. It wasn't a gentle knock. It was heavy, insistent, echoing through the tiny apartment. Her mother frowned. Who could that be at this hour? Brianna opened the door and froze. 2 police officers stood there, rain glistening off their uniforms. Behind them was a sleek black car. "Are you Brianna Johnson?" one officer asked. Brianna's heart lurched. Yes, sir. We need you to come with us." Her mother shot up from the table. "What? Why?" "She hasn't done anything!" The officers exchanged a glance. Then, almost in unison, they softened their tone. "You're not in trouble. Someone important wants to see you." Confused and trembling, Brianna followed them downstairs. The black car's door opened, and to her shock, the homeless man from last night stepped out. Only now he was dressed in a tailored suit, his hair combed neatly, his presence commanding. Brianna's breath caught. "It's you," Edward Langston smiled gently. "Yes, and it's time I explained everything." Inside the car, Edward told his story, how he had disguised himself, how he had been ignored by hundreds, and how her small act of kindness had touched him in a way billions of dollars never could. "I've spent my life surrounded by people who only saw my money," he said, his voice low. "But you saw a human being. You gave when you had almost nothing yourself." Brianna's hands twisted nervously in her lap. "I didn't do anything special. It was just a sandwich." Edward shook his head. "To you, maybe. To me, it was proof that there's still goodness in the world, and I intend to repay that kindness." The next day, Edward arrived at Brianna's school. Not in disguise this time, but in his full grandeur. His appearance caused a stir among students and teachers alike. Whispers spread down the hallways. "That's Edward Langston." In front of the entire assembly, Edward called Brianna to the stage. "This young woman," he announced, "saw me when no one else would. In a city that prides itself on wealth, she reminded me that true riches lie in compassion." Gasps echoed through the auditorium. Brianna's cheeks burned, but she stood tall. "I have created a scholarship," Edward continued, "in Brianna Johnson's name. It will cover her college education and provide opportunities for countless other students who show kindness and resilience." The crowd erupted in applause. Brianna's mother, sitting in the back row, wiped tears from her eyes. But the story didn't end there. Later that week, Edward visited Brianna's neighborhood again. This time not to pretend, but to transform. He began funding community programs, refurbishing the rundown library, opening job training centers, and creating safe spaces for children. When reporters asked him why, Edward simply said, "Because one girl with a sandwich showed me what real humanity looks like." And if she can give so much with so little, then I have no excuse. Brianna became a local hero, yet she never let it change her. She still worked shifts at the diner, still helped her mother with bills, still treated everyone, rich or poor, with the same gentle respect. One evening, Edward invited Brianna and her mother to dinner at his mansion. As they sat at a grand oak table, Edward leaned forward and said, "Brianna, people think I gave you a gift, but the truth is you gave me one first. You reminded me what life is about." Brianna smiled shyly. "All I did was give you a sandwich," Edward chuckled, eyes glistening. "No, you gave me hope." Months later, Brianna stood at a podium, addressing a crowd of young students receiving the very scholarships Edward had funded. Cameras flashed, reporters scribbled, but Brianna's words were simple. Kindness doesn't cost money. It costs courage. One small act can change someone's whole life. And sometimes, the whole world. And in the back of the room, Edward Langston watched, proud, remembering the night in the rain when a girl with nothing had given him everything.